Hi there, this is a battle report between my Pagan Peoples and Ordensstaat. For this particular battle we're using a scenario from the Book of Battles called Claiming Territory. Each player can place 2 objectives in the opponent's half. You gain points by controlling the objectives. For this particular scenario, it's using the conquest points. For those not familiar, there's a table in the Book of Battles that shows you how many conquest points a particular unit is worth.
Okay, let's begin with deployment. My Pagan Peoples are deployed at the bottom of the screen, and my opponent's Ordensstaat are at the top of the screen. You can see there's not a lot of terrain around. There's an open hill, or a gentle hill, which doesn't count as uneven terrain, and 3 pieces of uneven woods, and 1 building right in the center. Beginning with my deployment, you can see I've split my warriors with bows into 4 separate units of 6. I have left my warlord out of the woods, and you can almost make out 2 units of 4 Hearthguard with heavy weapons. My priest is hanging out behind the hill, or behind the forest rather, just to be out of sight. And since he doesn't have a lot of shooting or mounted units, he'll probably be quite safe there. My opponent is using 1 unit of levy with archers, 1 unit of warriors, no special equipment, and then 4 points worth of Hearthguard, 1 point mounted, and then 1.5 point with heavy weapons, 1.5 points with just standard equipment. A few more pictures of the deployment. You can see here a close-up of the large mass of troops I've managed to fit into this particular piece of woods. You can also see the archers and my warlord. Here again some pictures of the archers. This is what the deployment of my opponent looks like from my side of the table. Here's a little bit better picture. You can see the heavy weapons. Moving on, so turn 1, my opponent starts by moving a unit of Hearthguard, the mounted Hearthguard, up the flank towards the first objective on my half. Generally, all of his units are just moving up medium to get closer into combat with me, capturing his the objectives that are in his table half as well. They don't count as much, but they still do deliver some points, so it's always worthwhile to capture those. This is a situation at the end of his turn. You can see people have his units have moved up. I believe he's just inside or just outside capturing the objective on my half of the table edge, but he's definitely close enough to capture the 2 objectives on his own halves, which do count towards his point total. Just moving on to seeing what I've rolled. So as you can see, I've rolled quite well. I have 2 rare dice, so that really frees up a lot of activations for me, so I can put them on the BIG-REVERB-WARHORN, which means I can activate 3 units of less than 6 models, which is perfect for the way I've organized my my battle or my warband. I can load up some dice on teleportation and some extra abilities as well. So I really wanted to do this, so I shot the Levy Bowman as his only ranged threat with a unit of my warriors. I managed to score 2 hits. I teleported my unit of Hearthguard to right next to the objectives. And looking back, this wasn't very clever, but I really wanted to do it. also charge them out of the uneven terrain using the key activation, which means that uneven terrain doesn't slow me down. It also doesn't cause a fatigue. So I charged him into the levy. He wasn't expecting this, so I don't think he had any abilities. I did quite well with my Hearthguard, however, I did lose one of my models. So he retreats from the objective. I therefore managed to get the points for that particular objective. I shoot one of his units, managed to just chip away a little bit and take one down. So this is the situation at the end of turn 1. So, turn 2. What's it looking like? So my opponent has pretty much lost his levy archers. He's got some fatigue on some of his units. My Hearthguard is in his deployment zone with 2 fatigues, and one of my warrior units with holding the objective has also got 1 fatigue. So let's see what he does. He moves up some warriors and Hearthguard into the woods to secure the objective and make sure I can't get within medium of the objective to capture or to contest it. He's got a number of abilities, mostly defensive abilities, just to make sure that he survives. He double moves his Hearthguard unit with heavy weapons and charges my remaining 3 Hearthguard, who are now out in the open. So we both have 2 fatigues. He has a lot more defensive abilities than I have on my board. I think I only have 1, which is a shooting reaction, so this is not looking particularly good. I've also used all of my combat abilities, and I've also rolled pretty badly here, only hitting once. So I think he saves that one as well. So all of my Hearthguard are dead, which seems like a little bit of a waste, but it was worth it, just for the cool factor. I don't think I've killed any of his Hearthguard, so he's looking pretty good. And he's managed to reclaim the objective in his deployment half. Just to see how the situation is, his mounted Hearthguard moved up, claimed the cow at the bottom left-hand side. He is now within range of my small unit of warriors, but that's about it for now. So again, I managed to roll really well. It seems every time I take a priest, I roll exceptionally well on the SAGA dice and don't use them very often. But this is pretty much my standard allocation when I get 2 6s. It allows me to deploy or to activate 3 small units. It also allows me to use the Terra Avita ability, which gives me 2 extra attack dice every time I have a melee or a shooting attack. So I can do this either as an orders or an orders reaction, depending on what I expect to do. But since I'm shooting, I'm just using it in my orders phase, so I can gain a lot of advantage of this during my turn. Again, you can see I obviously didn't learn anything. I teleport the second unit of Hearthguard with heavy weapons over to the uneven terrain, and then charge right into the remaining Hearthguard. Let's see if this goes any better. So it's a little bit of a wash. I lose 1, he loses 1. Since I've attacked, I'm the attacker, I push him off the objective, I believe. So things are going slightly better with my shooting. I double activate the unit of bowmen in the left-hand side, shoot twice at the unit of mounted Hearthguard. He does take a fatigue to using Zealous Works to increase his armor by 2 as well against my shooting, so that diminishes the usefulness of my shooting. However, I still managed to knock off 2 Hearthguard. This is the situation at the end. I've retreated with my Hearthguard into the forest. Right, no, sorry, I've got that wrong. The Hearthguard retreated because I've actually attacked my opponent's Hearthguard with not with the heavy weapons, just with the normal weapons, so they've closed ranks. That's why they've stayed in place. In his turn, he charges in and finishes off my remaining 3 Hearthguard. I've managed to kill 1 of his, but it really doesn't matter. I don't have any combat units left, so he's just going to camp out on that particular objective with his warlord there as well. He did also use the Slay the Pagans ability here. However, he did not manage to charge twice, or charge with 2 units, simply because he wiped out my unit to begin with. In my turn 3, or my turn 2 rather, I do some more shooting. I managed to kill 2 warriors hiding out in the woods, but it doesn't really affect that much, since I think he's still above the limit where he manages to get conquest points. Entering turn 4. So, what's the situation look like? I've still got most of my units except for my Hearthguard. However, they're all out in the open, and just because I wanted to shoot. So let's see what happens. My opponent doesn't actually do that much this turn. He's in the lead. He's racking up the conquest points compared to me. He knows I don't have any combat units left except for maybe my warlord. So he just moves up some units, loads up on defensive abilities and shooting reaction abilities, and hides out in the woods, kind of using that against me. So my course of action is I move up my warriors. Or before that, he actually moves up his warlord to be in a more menacing position behind the building. He moves back his Hearthguard from the objective so that he still captures it, but it's out of range of my warriors. So if I want to do something, I would gain a fatigue by moving them and then shooting them. So he would probably use that to increase his armor. So I move up my warriors, I shoot them, I manage to kill 1 Hearthguard, I move up my warlord to be able to charge them. I decide to charge the warriors with my Hearthguard. I do take a fatigue, but I also use the Perkins ability, which gives me 4 extra defense or attack dice. I manage to do nothing or hardly anything at all. However, in return, I do get 3 or 2 wounds, so that puts my warlord in quite a dangerous position where where she's exhausted and out in the open without any support from a Hearthguard to soak up any wounds. So this is actually where we decided to stop, since he'd racked up quite a few points already, and you're supposed to see if you continue to turn 6, but we decided just to call it a day for now and learn what we could from this particular scenario, since it was the first time either of us had played it.
So what did I learn from this battle? My opponent played to the scenario really well, and he kept that in mind and didn't deviate from that plan. However, on my side, I definitely threw away the 2 units of Hearthguard by teleporting them into the same location. It was next to an objective, but I probably should have either sent over both in consecutive turns before charging out, or sending a unit of Hearthguard and a unit of warriors with bows just to give them some support. That way they would have more chance of actually doing something and capturing the objective. On my half of the table, I definitely should have concentrated more on the unit, the very small unit of mounted Hearthguard that he put up on the objective on the hill. That would have been an easy denial of points from my side at the end of the game. He only had 2 left on there, so I probably should have either sent over my warlord or sent over another unit of warriors to shoot them off and make sure he wasn't racking up those points, since the majority of the points were coming from that particular objective. That's what I've learned for this time. I'm sure I've made some other mistakes, but it's a lot of fun so far playing with the Pagan Peoples. It's unlike any other warband I've played with this much shooting, so hopefully I'll put out some more battle reports soon enough. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.